Can we talk about scary things in crypto right now?
Oh God.
What's happening with UST price? And Raoul, I don't know if you want to pull up a chart too. It's not looking pretty.
I just interviewed Doe this morning, by the way.
Raoul, when you hopped into this recording room, UST price was at 98 cents being defended. Do you know what it is right now?
No.
It's at 92 cents. Yeah. So that's $1 billion of stablecoin market cap that's gotten erased in the last 30 minutes. As I'm monitoring Twitter right now, and the Luna Guard, the Luna Foundation that has the BTC, has just sent their BTC outbound. So they are probably in the process of liquidating.
So they
their
liquidated
Bitcoin.
500 million yesterday.
I don't know, but yeah, you're the one that talked to Do Kwon more recently.
Yeah, so they liquidated 500 million yesterday. Jump Trading, who is the market maker, I think, were liquidating ETH. Mm-hmm. And look, I don't know how much LFG have, but I think it's $3 billion of Bitcoin. Well, what's happened is that never made it onto the curve because they weren't set up with the 4 pool that we're putting on curve.
Right.
So they're just having to liquidate the position in the meantime. So the market's always going to test this stuff, right? This is what the markets do. Is you want to test the fragilities, and this is an S-curve moment for the entire algorithmic stablecoin idea. I mean, all of them have failed so far. So let's see whether they survive it or not. I mean, I hope they do, because it would be nice, but it's not sure, right?
Yeah. Do you have any opinions on just like the systemic nature of Terra in its whole ecosystem? Because they're using non-Terra assets like Bitcoin and Avalanche is also in their portfolio to defend the peg. So like the concerns that people are having is that they are going to dump the rest of the market before they have to dump their own assets.
Well, this is the margin call I talked about, right? Mm-hmm. It's exactly the same thing. And so what's happened is they're now getting asked for their collateral back. I mean, it's exactly what I talked about, and it's going on. This is what you expect to see at this phase. You know, this is a liquidation phase, and that's when somebody taps you on the shoulder and say, "I want your collateral back," and you have to sell it. So in this case, it's the Bitcoin.
Interesting, because this has been much of the talk of the previous weekend is what would happen if Terra had and UST had kind of a meltdown moment. And your perspective seems to be, well, they're just like any other participant with collateral that's underwater, and the markets have to flush. We got to flush this out of the system, and then markets go down, and then we kind of move on. So I guess, what is your take on that? Because some people are very fearful of a massive meltdown. And we should say it's not clear that UST will kind of fail.
But there's only $3 billion to liquidate.
So that's it. It's just another big whale market participant, $3 billion. It's not massively systemic risk to the crypto system or to DeFi in your mind.
No, I mean, does this change the anchor protocol? I don't know what the knock-on effects are. As you said, maybe there's more knock-on effects in Avalanche. I don't know. It's a very complicated ecosystem, Terra, so I don't really know it inside out. Much like, try and pick apart the Ethereum ecosystem, it's immensely complicated. Nobody really knows where the fault lines lie, who's got the leverage, who hasn't. But markets like this is what they do. They find the weakest hands and drive it into the strongest hands. I mean, that's just always the way of the world. What the clearing price is, I don't know, because I don't really know how much leverage is or margin. Because this wasn't so much leverage as just the kind of margin, the collateral of this system being asked back.
Mm-hmm. Do Kwon just tweeted out deploying more capital, steady lads. So this is kind of the moment, right? Where like, do they have enough ammo in the reserves to defend the peg, or is it all going to get depleted? I don't know if it's 3 billion or not, but Raoul, you sound more informed than me. But like, can the crypto markets, the Bitcoin markets, like accept $3 billion of liquidation?
Depends how fast it happens, right? Yeah. It's possible, and we don't know who the buyers are.
Sorry to cut you off. 1.4 billion it just got sent out of the Bitcoin Luna reserve wallet. Don't know. Like, obviously, they can choose to sell that at any rate that they want, but $1.4 billion is the number.
What's kind of funny to me as we're all talking about this is the fact that we get to see this all play out on chain with the data in real time. Like, Raoul, this has to happen all of the time in traditional markets.
Of course, it does.
The public doesn't see it. We're not talking about it on Twitter.
You do see it sometimes, right? We saw it like at the European debt crisis. That played out in real time on our screens, but a lot of the time you don't.
Not the play-by-play.
Yeah, not normally you don't, because it's some bloke at a bank calling up and saying there's no one. But sometimes it happens on a gigantic scale, which was like Greece blowing up and Italy and Spain, and here it is in the crypto market. The bigger question is let's assume that this is a shit show and that this continues and there's other leverage to come out of this system from some of the DeFi ecosystem. What does it mean for regulation?
We've had Terra on before, and the folks kind of the bull and the bear case for Terra. And part of our sentiment has been like, hey, let's not screw it up, guys. Like, there are regulators, there are legislators like Elizabeth Warren who are already biased against our industry and will be looking for opportunities to scapegoat the entire industry and point out when things go haywire. And this is a concern I have about kind of more centralized algo stablecoins. And I'm wondering what your take is on this. So let's assume this is a shit show. It may not be. Hopefully things come out on the other side. It doesn't go in that direction. But let's assume it goes in a negative direction. What do you think the regulatory impact might look like?
I think it's going to err towards, and I've always thought this, is no governments wants unregulated stablecoins. Right. They want central bank digital currencies, whether they're private sector or state sector. I think there'll be a blend. Nobody wants this. So they will use this as an excuse. And, it's probably good for people like Paxos, and it's probably good for people like Circle, and it's not so good for Tether, and it's not so good for Terra. And, the problem is if we are borrowing somebody else's currency, then we have to play their game, whether we like it or not. It's their currency. So anybody thinks that, just because we've got some algorithm, it's not the Federal Reserve's currency, smoking crack.
I mean, crypto is importing the unit of account of the dollar, right? And so I do understand that take. Correct.
I mean, it's like the SEC quashed anybody trying to do synthetics. Because it's like...
I mean, this goes back to the role of a Bitcoin or an ETH or like a monetary asset that doesn't have an analog to the real world, and the value of having that in the crypto system and keeping us more resilient that way. Because in these cases, we are not borrowing the unit of account from any central bank.
Exactly. And I don't have an issue with stablecoins. I mean, I think they're very useful because we need to integrate from our, from the sovereign systems we live in to this digital Web3 world. And that's an integration tool, and it works very well. So I have no issue with that. But the key point is, if you own Ethereum or Bitcoin or others, you own them. It's not somebody else's liability. It's not their asset. I mean, the dollar, it became absolutely clear to the Russians that they thought they owned dollars as their own asset. They didn't. The US had lent it to them. Mm-hmm. It's like, you've got to realize what game you're playing here. And that's why, I think the stablecoin industry as is going to shift towards the highly regulated. And I don't really have a problem with it. Sure, we're all utopians and we'd love this other world, but we also need to be pragmatists. If we want this world to win, we need to realize there's some battles we will fight and others that we can't win.
I do still think it's a net win, even in that world of you get regulated stablecoins, because what are they ultimately settling on? It's crypto rails.
Exactly.
And where does the value accrue? It accrues to crypto. It's not a ban of ETH or Bitcoin or anything. If anything, like the assets that are underlying the stablecoin system become these more base crypto native assets. So it's still a win, even in that zone.
I totally agree.
Hey, we hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, head over to Bankless HQ right now to develop your crypto investing skills and learn how to free yourself from banks and gain your financial independence. We recommend joining our daily newsletter, podcast, and community as a Bankless Premium subscriber to get the most out of your Bankless experience. You'll get access to our market analysis, our alpha leaks, and exclusive content, and even the Bankless token for airdrops, raffles, and unlocks. If you're interested in crypto, the Bankless community is where you want to be. Click the link in the description to become a Bankless Premium subscriber today. Also, don't forget to subscribe to the channel for in-depth interviews with industry leaders, Ask Me Anythings, and weekly roll-ups where we summarize the week in crypto and other fantastic content. Thanks everyone for watching and being on the journey as we build out the Bankless Nation.